record on this computer. Recording! I think we are being recorded.
Yeah, I see the red light flashing, so yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Recording on here.
All right, maybe we'll get a person or two still to join us, but tomorrow's Halloween, so I'm sure it's a busy week for everybody. So let's just start off with any questions you folks have. I have a list of different things that I wanted to show that have come up in the draft and then that people have emailed me. So once you've asked any questions you want to ask, I can just go off on a spiel. And if you need to check out, you can leave. How's that sound? Does that work?
Sounds good, thanks.
Okay. Becca, do you want to go first?
Sure. Can I just share my screen? I'm better visual. Let's see. Okay. I think I was able to take care of a lot of the suggestions that were given. Mm-hmm. And you're the one that made suggestions to me, aren't you? Both of you. You both gave me suggestions, I think.
Yep.
Oh, this is great. You can see that I've followed your suggestions. I hope most of them. I do have a couple specific questions. Okay, so where the title is it easily readable or do I need to make adjustments?
I would make adjustments, but I think I would just make maybe like the main white words bigger.
Okay.
That would make, it's nice to have the really big and clearly smaller things next to each other. That contrast can be really nice. And right here you've got the contrast of red and white. So having the contrast in size might be nice as well. I like that, but I also kind of wish it was 2 lines instead of 3. What if you added dwells in the red text?
I was the guy who suggested she not do that, so I'll recant.
Well, I think I was kind of keeping Spirit of the Lord as a phrase in one color.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I can match.
Let's think of some other options then, because we can brainstorm a bunch of things. I do like it better on 2 lines. What do you think of that?
I like it. I don't know. Like, it just feels like dwells is off on its own no matter where it is.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I would recommend trying, I would break all of this sentence into 3 different text blocks. Have one that says a home where the and then the next block be Spirit of the Lord, and then the next block be dwells. Because then you can try different things where you've got like 1 line up here, 1 line like this way. Anyway, you can kind of play with how they fit together and they don't have to line up, you know?
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'll work on that. Does this picture?
And then also you'll want by President Henry B. Eyring to be in its own text box also. Sorry.
Okay. You had commented that your picture looked dark. Does this picture look dark to you, or does it look okay?
That one looks right. That one looks.
So I haven't changed it at all.
Have you done anything?
I did not change it at all. I actually made it. I made it a little bit bigger. I tried messing with the opacity, but then you lose the crisp picture.
Yes, you don't want to lose the crispness. So yeah, I don't know why it looked semi-transparent in the PDF. but it wasn't. It was.
I have not,
There's
I didn't do
nothing.
anything to it. And I went back and looked at the PDF on my computer because I was like, did I do something when I was saving it? And it looked fine. So I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Is I I had different comments on leaving color here versus pulling the picture all the way over to the edge on this. I kind of liked lining it up with the photo that I had. I liked lining it up with my columns and having that around the edge. But if other people have,
And then you took it all the way over the bleed on the top.
I don't know, did I?
Yeah, so you don't have a barrier at the top of it, like you don't have a bar of
Right.
tan over the top.
Right. Should I add one
I think
there?
that no. I think that looks nice. I was gonna say if you had the bar of tan on the right and you didn't have it on the left, you need
No,
to make sure that looks balanced. But you've done it on both
I've done it
sides,
on both
and then
sides.
the top goes and then the top goes clear. So yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. My other question is this. I don't love how it looks. I don't love how my quote in the middle looks with the text wrap. I feel like it looks funky. Like I took the box off, the stroke off the box lining it, but I also feel like it looks funny still. Is there a way that I can like shrink the heart and maybe change, like make my quote in my heart? Like, is it a way to make the heart kind of the text box and have everything wrap around like a smaller heart than this?
It is possible.
So you're saying like so
Like,
that the text forms a heart?
Not necessarily, but keeping this quote inside the parameters of the heart, but making the text wrap, all of this text wrap, go around the heart. Like make this heart smaller, and maybe have to, I might have to make the top line have more word. The top lines have more words than the bottom lines to fill the heart better.
Yes.
Is there
you could get that straight.
How?
Yeah, so what you would do is you'd make the heart and the text on top of it exactly how you want it to be. And then you would make them a group.
Okay.
And then you would text wrap that group with the text. You'd just put a text wrap on that group. And then the words would flow around the heart. The issue, I mean, you'd want to change the shape of your heart a little bit because you wouldn't want, like, you've got these really high arches on the heart, which means if you text wrapped around it, you'd have like a sentence coming along and then it would like start up partway through. So you'd have like these floating words that are in the middle of the heart, and your reader would have to like do this jump thing, and you don't want that. You want it to be easy to read. So that would be the danger, is like trying to balance how the heart cuts into the text without creating those funny lines for reading. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you have?
I mean, there are ways you can do it.
Do you have any other suggestions for how I could make this work better?
So one of the things that's going to make this tricky is that that's a pretty long pull quote. It would be easier to manage if it were shorter. Also, you could just make it huge. You could decide, no, this is the pull quote we want to have, and just make the text and all of it enormous. Right now, it's not much bigger than your body copy, and I think that's part of the problem. And also the font that it's in is very thin, so it doesn't carry a lot of weight. So your eye's a little confused, like what's most important here? What am I looking at? There's clearly with the heart, there's a lot of emphasis on what's that pull quote, but the actual text itself is not very commanding, because it's kind of small and kind of thin. But I do think that the idea you said is a good one, because if you kind of made that consecrated space, so there was all this white space around it, around that text, it would also like make it more commanding. It would help it stand out a little bit more.
Okay. Am I going to have a problem like here? You can tell, you can't see where I'm pointing on my screen. Okay. So like right here.
Yes, I can.
So if I have the text box grouped with the heart, am I still going to have a problem like here where the text box goes over the edge of the heart when I wrap text? Is it going to still kind of
right now your text wrapping the text box of the pull quote, right?
Yes.
That's what has a text wrap on it.
Yes.
So if you take the text wrap off of that and then combine the pull quote and the heart so that they're a group, then all of this text, all the body copy around it is going to flow around the heart. It won't cross over the heart at all. Is that,
but I mean,
does
like
that answer the
here,
question?
like this part right here, because is it still gonna, I mean, even when you group the heart and the box, like this part right here, where the box goes over the edge of the heart, is the text?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like try to wrap around that right there?
Yes. So you'll want to make sure that your text box fits within the heart outline, or else you're right. You'll get those gaps that pop up.
Okay. But changing the heart to be kind of a little bit shorter and wider might help. Okay.
I'm not entirely
sure. Also,
no, go ahead.
You could also think about, so you've got your heart and it's like this, and if you make kind of this part a little bit shorter, that'd help. Yeah. But you could also turn your heart to it at an angle, kind of like this. Oh. That gives you more of a square, and it would also make it easier for the text wrap not to cut into lines and break lines up on the sides. So that's one thought.
Okay.
You kind of have that same feel without so much struggle.
Okay.
I was going to say you might have, it's hard for me to judge from this size screen, but you may have an extra line of blank text underneath the word love there that you could get rid of. There's a possibility there.
You also, I mean, it's not as important in pull quotes, because sometimes when you're making text really big, you end up with one word at the very bottom. But like the way it stands right now, the love at the bottom looks like a widow down there, or an orphan. Those terms are interchangeable, but essentially, yeah, you don't want to have one word on the bottom by itself unless that one word is pretty close to the width of the column.
Okay. Those are my questions.
It's looking good.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like not bad for my first time with InDesign.
No, not bad at all. Okay, so then Glenn, have you had any questions?
I think you pretty much answered them before we officially started the meeting.
Okay.
I showed up early, Rebecca, that's why.
Nice.
So I'm going to jump in and kind of say one of the things that I talked about with Glenn, because it's something that's come up, and now I have all the arguments in my mind. Let's see, and I'm going to switch so that you're not seeing my, here we go. All right, screen number 2, share. All right, so you should be seeing my InDesign screen, right?
Yep.
So we're gonna make a text box here and we're gonna fill it with placeholder text. Okay, now I've seen a bunch of people venturing out into justified text, which it's good to see people experimenting with different things. But I've come down pretty hard on justified text, so I'm going to try and explain why that is, and hopefully it'll make more sense. So here I've got this text going on, and I don't want anything to hyphenate, so I'm going to uncheck that bottom, that little checkbox in my paragraph panel that says hyphenate, because I don't want random hyphens appearing at the ends of my paragraph lines. So here I've got this block of text, and you know, you're trying to make everything look so perfect and line up properly. So justified text is a big temptation. Like nice, even lines on both sides. But here's the problem. The way that it comes up with those nice lines is by throwing in random weird spaces in between words. And if it can't find spaces in between words, then it starts throwing them in between letters. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like too. I'll make my text super big. So you start to get like some words that have enormous kerning and some words that are like really squished together. This is bad. I mean, I've taken it to an extreme, but when you've seen the extreme enough, it starts to bug you even in the not extreme. So that's why I generally don't approve of justification. It's just a dangerous thing to get away with. It's a dangerous thing to do well. And the wider your column is, the easier it is to make that work for you, because the spaces that are being added are not as obvious. But like I was explaining to Glenn, when a typographer builds a font, if they're serious about it, then they are very specific about how much space they want between letters. So it would be like, you know, going into a famous work of art and just like adding in random spaces places. It's kind of a desecration of something somebody has worked really hard to perfect. So I don't typically approve of it. And that would be the reason why. I think of fonts as, especially well-built fonts, as something that as a whole is an art. So I try not to change the pieces too much. At the same time, when I work on logos, I almost never leave the kerning alone. Almost every single time I go in and specifically kern my words in my logo so that they fit exactly properly for the word that I've formed. And that's pretty typical of designers also, that when you're working on a logo and a logo has words in it, you want those words to be perfect. So yes, when we're talking about body copy, I don't mess with the kerning very much, and I don't use justified text for that reason. But when I'm working on just one word, or the title too, sometimes when I'm working on a title of something, I'm trying to make it look really awesome. Sometimes I will just absolutely perfectly kern how everything fits. But that's something to be aware of, to be careful of.
Cool.
Okay, so that's off of my list. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to show you this too, because it came to mind as Becca was talking, and it's something that I realized partway through this week. I don't think is covered in the the tutorial videos, but it can be really useful. So these text boxes are essentially boxes like shaped. So they have like these little points. I've just selected my wide arrow tool over here, so you can see these points have appeared on each corner. And if I choose, I can select just one, and I can adjust my box using those corners. I can also come up here and grab my pen tool, and I can decide, oh, I'm going to unjustify my text because that's driving me crazy now. I can decide, like this right here, that looks weird. There's like this funky half circle. So I can come in here and I can say, I don't want those words to stick out. So I can just like really, really minutely adjust my box so that my paragraph fits the way I want it to fit, which can come in really handy when you're dealing with widows and orphans, because, you know, if you've got like just a couple words and you want that last line to be a little longer, you can just bump in a little bit, and it will throw a couple more words down on the bottom for you. That can also work against you. I mean, the first line of defense for widows and orphans is always just to change the width of your whole column and try and make as few widows and orphans as you can just with the width. But, you know, if you've got your whole thing laid out and it's almost perfect, but there's one place, then I would maybe think about going in with the pen tool, adding one dot onto the thing and bumping it over so that it kicks those just a couple words onto the last. So that's a useful thing to know, how to adjust those text boxes with the pen tool. Mm-hmm. All right. I already talked about auto hyphenate. I don't want to see hyphenated paragraphs. The reason why that's a default in InDesign is that it is a default of newspapers, which makes sense because newspapers cram every inch of space full of words they possibly can. And magazines, no way. You want it to look more refined than that. A newspaper is something you buy for 25 cents and throw in the trash as soon as you're done with it. And magazines are supposed to be a little more value than that. So this is the next level up. We don't want auto hyphenated paragraphs. Let's see. The dangers of text wrapping. So I'm going to just use that example, just exactly what we were just talking about. I'm going to make 2 columns like what Becca has. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a little heart. Oops.
You can draw one?
Mm-hmm.
With the pencil.
Yeah, I'm not that good with the pencil.
I have a lot more practice. Okay, so there we go. We got a heart. Pretty recognizable form. Okay, so now I'm gonna come right in here. I actually, just to make sure it happens, here, I'm gonna make this like, okay, now I'm gonna come in here and go to window. Oh, where's my text wrap? Okay, so we're talking about the perils of text wrapping. So if you put a funny shape like this, you have to be real careful that you don't get Z's happening, where somebody is trying to read this and all of a sudden they have to jump over part of your picture. Anyway, you also want to make sure you don't want things getting down to just the size of one word. You want to do your best to make sure that there's a little more beef in in your line than just one word's width. Because that's obnoxious. I don't know if you've ever been like reading through a magazine or something and you have to like find the next word, like you have to find the next line with every word. It's work, it's a lot of work. And you want to do as much as you can to make reading easy, easy for the people who are wanting to get your information, not harder. So be very conscientious about that. You also want to be careful about putting a text wrap in the middle of a text box. It's not such a good idea because then people have to jump for every line, and trying to track that far every couple of words is very hard to read. So as you're going through and refining, just look through your article and make sure, if I were reading this, would it be hard? Are there any places where people aren't sure where the next line starts or where the next word can be found? All of those things are, of course, important to avoid. All right. Okay, I did want to show how to crop a picture according to a custom shape. And I'm going to show a couple ways of doing this. I've already got my custom shape. So this is, I want an image to show up inside this shape. Now I can select my shape, go to File, hit Place. I believe this will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there we go. And here's my pictures inside there, and he's a flipping huge picture, so I'm gonna make that smaller. There we go. Teddy Roosevelt in my heart. Okay, so that's one way. Another way. Say I've just got a picture on my spread already and I want to try it inside of this heart. You can just cut, which is Control X, or you can go to Edit Cut. And if you do that, it will go onto your clipboard, which is, you know, an imaginary thing that a computer holds stuff on that you've copied or stuff that you've cut. And then I can select my heart again, go to File, and I think there's a place where you can put like Place In.
I had to right click on the image to get Place In when I did it.
You did what?
I think I had to right click on the image on the shape to get the Place In option.
I did this just a little bit ago.
Somehow I got a Paste In option.
What was the
I'm wondering if it was showing up right in here. It just says Place In. Let's see, I'm curious now because I'm not seeing it. I'm wondering if I make another custom shape that hasn't already had an image in it. I wonder if it'll, it's still not showing up here.
There was a certain option that showed up when you did the right-click menu.
Oh, there it is.
Paste in place. What does that do?
Paste in place. It pastes it where it was before.
Okay.
Let's see. Now I'm curious where this went to. I might have to look into it and figure it out later.
Maybe by typing it into the help menu, it would show up.
I don't have a Mac, and that doesn't work.
Okay.
If I go to InDesign Help, it just sends me to the internet, which is worthless.
What's it called again? What's it called? Place In?
Place In. Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay, let's see.
But at the same time, like, this always has been working, where you just select the frame, you hit place, and then you select whatever image you want to go inside of there.
Okay.
And of course, there's always the good old, in InDesign, this does not work in Illustrator, but in InDesign, if you just drag in from the sides, then it will cut out the part of the picture that you covered. And that's already in the tutorials, but it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
And like the text boxes, if you switch to your wide arrow tool, you can select these points and individually manipulate them. So text boxes and photo frames, whatever, it's all just a shape made out of points and lines.
Nice.
That can be manipulated.
I was wondering if that was possible because someone, I won't name the person, showed their draft on VoiceThread, and there was a jagged line that was going up and down, and I was like, I just misinterpreted where I was supposed to read next. And now that I know that that's possible, I'm hoping that that person sees this video, because then it'll be just a case of, okay, let's move this dot, let's move that dot, and I think they'll be able to get something more natural.
Yep. So, wait a second. I had a thought of something that would be useful to know. Oh, yes. One important note. It is appropriate to crop this way, but you have to be careful that you're not accidentally squishing the photo itself. That is bad. And any designer worth their salt can spot that from a mile away and know this picture is skewed and not in proportion. It's an ability of the human brain to recognize when something has been pulled out of proportion that way. So yeah, if you ever do that, Control D, so undo until it isn't there anymore, or just delete the picture and put the picture back in, because just guessing is probably not going to be good enough. You really want that to stay perfectly in proportion. Okay, so yeah, take a look at your pictures, make sure that hasn't happened accidentally, because as you're changing things with just trying to crop them, sometimes the picture itself gets squished. All right. Adding new fonts. Have you guys tried adding new fonts onto your computers?
A while back, which program did I use fonts for? It might have been adding fonts in Photoshop, but I think they automatically are added into every Adobe program once you add them into one, right?
Once you add them onto your computer, they're in every program.
Okay.
So yeah, a couple of really good places to get solid fonts. Since you're using the Adobe programs, you can access Adobe Typekit, and those are legitimate fonts that have been well designed. There's also Google Fonts, and I'm going to show you that one specifically because it's more similar to the workflow you're going to find adding fonts everywhere. This is super easy, and that's part of why I want to show it, because it's so nice to have the nice, good font. So it's just kind of heartbreaking when I see a million articles that are using the same font with so many options available. So here you go. There's this whole list of fonts. I just picked one and decided, yeah, I like that one, and I pushed the little plus, and I added it down here into this like family selected option. And you can see right here, there's a download arrow. Obviously, anytime you download something off the internet, make sure that you are on a site that is not going to give you a virus. Google Fonts is a fairly good, reputable place to be. So you download, and you'll see you get this little zip file, and it's the name of the font that I just downloaded. I'm going to double click on it. It's going to open up, and here you see they've broken down into each version of the font is a different font. So that's kind of annoying. But basically, you just double click on it, hit install, and then it's done. It's there. So it's really simple, straightforward, easy thing to do. And last thing, I wanted to show how to set up and save facing pages. So let's see. Oh, and I've kind of already done this, so it's funny. Anyway, I'm gonna come in here. There we go. So just naturally, your pages are gonna try and set themselves up like this, where you have a front cover and then you have 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. When for this particular assignment, some people are gonna want their facing pages side by side, and then their last page is a standalone. And that can be kind of tricky to figure out how to do. If you highlight both pages that in a spread and then right click on it, you can unclick a thing that says allow document pages to shuffle. Mine doesn't say that because I already had fixed it, but if you unclick that, then you'll be able to come in here, delete that, and it will stay a spread. It won't try and automatically make that single page its own. So yeah, then you can just add another page. Now it's done something crazy. There you go. So yep, you just kind of mess with it until you have the groupings that you want to have. If you want double pages and then a single page, or if you want a single page and then double pages. And when you're saving it, this is also important to know. I always lose track because in Illustrator and InDesign, they're in different places. Yep, I'm in the wrong place. Export. So file, export, Adobe PDF for print, and I'm going to hit save. And here we're going to get the option to export as spreads. If you click spreads, then it will automatically know anytime you have facing pages, they need to come out in a PDF with those two pages side by side. So, they're set up as separate pages inside your InDesign document. You don't set them up as like one big long page. But when you save it, you have to preserve the spreads by clicking on this little dot here that says spreads. If you just export as pages, then you'll just get single page, single page, single page in your Photoshop, in your PDF. So there you go. That's what you need to know.
Thanks.
That was a good one. I missed that before.
I'm not sure. I can't remember if they talked about that. They may have. I haven't watched the tutorial videos this semester, so I might not remember for sure. But
I don't remember hearing that, but my memory doesn't work perfectly well. So
yeah, and there's lots of information in those too. I mean, the saving stuff you don't use until the very end. So I think it's probably the first thing to be forgotten if it is there. But, yep,
Okay.
that's all that I have notes for.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Oh, pleasure.
Thanks for answering questions.
And
No problem.
Cool.
Good luck.
thanks. Now, how do I
Bye.
close this?
Have a good night.
Good night. And